the exhibit that you see here at the front of the room. And I didn't plan for this. So I really encourage all of you, when you have the opportunity, to please come and read the plates at the table. As the brother mentioned, I am a survivor of domestic violence. Though my presentation today wasn't going to go in depth about domestic violence, we were going to touch upon it. After seeing this presentation, I have to acknowledge that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I stand here today before you, a survivor, a woman, a sister, a mother, a grandmother, no different than anyone in this room. And I want you to know that 1 in 4 women will face domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 4. Imagine how many women, your mothers, your daughters, may face domestic abuse. Every 6 minutes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, every 6 minutes in America, a woman is murdered, killed by an intimate partner. Those are staggering statistics. And I think that the Muslim community holds the answer to stop domestic violence within our homes, inshallah. So please, when you have an opportunity, take a look at this display and read the stories of the victims. And let's make a vow today that there should be no more victims within our community, inshallah. So I know that the display might be a little, maybe more than a little blurry. Not working at all. I'm a visual learner. I like to be able to see things. That's how I learn. So I had developed a presentation, and now I'm a little thrown off, but we'll still go over. What we see today is a breakdown of the family for a variety of reasons. You know, many of us have succumbed to a lot of outside influences and really let a lot of the dunya into our homes. But as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we have the best guide in the Quran, mashallah. Islam lays a framework for gender relations. It's also a religion of complete and absolute justice. We should treat our marriages and families like we would a legal business contract. You know, discussing particulars in advance. I am really an advocate for premarital classes and courses within our community. Not only for the young people, but for those who may be getting married for the second time, or even women and men that are getting married older in life, of really having courses and discussions before marriage. So in this presentation, we're going to discuss the following things: premarital counseling, laying a foundation. One of the most key components is communication, companionship, growth, management, respect, and forgiveness. I was really excited too. It's a really nice presentation. Too bad you can't see it. I can. So I think the list I went over sounds pretty extensive, but these are just some of the basics that we should take into consideration before getting married. But it's also things that we should reflect upon even after marriage, and go back and evaluate and look at them and see how well we're doing. That's okay. So, I think before marriage, we should have just like you would do in any business. If you're looking to bring somebody on board, what are you going to do first? You're going to interview them, correct? If you're looking for someone to fill a position, you're going to interview them. Well, why should marriage be any different? So I really truly believe in a premarital interview. And you might want to have a follow-up interview and bring others in to do the second interview with you. You want to check the person's qualifications. You want to have a good job description so they know what they're getting into. What are their responsibilities going to be? You know, are your expectations realistic? And then how committed are they to the position? You know, are they looking for a part-time job or a full-time job? Because marriage is work. And then accountability. Who do they see themselves being held accountable to? Because we all know in marriage, first and foremost, Allah has to be at the head of that relationship. And that's who we are held accountable to. So when I said, you know, expectations, I think a lot of us growing up here in America, we have unrealistic expectations. We get caught up in this romanticism. You know, and it's not our fault. And we look at Hollywood or Bollywood movies and, you know, Disney and all these fairy tales. We think this knight in shining armor is going to come and whisk us off our feet. It's not a reality, and we need to check that. So again, the premarital discussion should, you know, what are your expectations? Who's going to take out the trash at night? Who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to pay the bills? They seem like small things, but once you get into a marriage, they can become very big things if they're not discussed. Communication, you know, what are your needs? I know a lot of times when we hear this, brothers, I understand. You know, the husband will say to his wife, you know, well, what's going on? What are you, is everything okay? Fine. I'm fine. And we can't expect him to read our minds. So we need to learn how to communicate. Also, you know, before marriage, talk about parenting. Different styles of parenting. That can be a huge problem in marriages later on after children are born. How are you going to be disciplining your children? Are you going to use timeout or corporal punishment? You know, these can be areas that can be conflicting and cause problems in marriage later on. Education and careers. You know, if you're a woman and you're looking to get married, do you want to continue your education? Do you want to have a career? Well, is this man that you're looking to marry, how does he feel about that? These are issues that I hear time and time again. Well, my husband doesn't want me to work, doesn't want me to go to school, doesn't want me to get my degree. Or vice versa. Well, my husband, he's always at work. His career comes before his family. So we need to talk about these things and be open and honest about how we feel. And then household chores. Again, like I said, you know, you cook dinner at night, you come home, you're tired, you know, who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to take out the trash? Personally, I feel taking out the trash is a man's job, but, you know, we need to establish these things beforehand and talk over. They seem like small little things, you know, oh, he's going to take out the trash, I'm going to wash the dishes. We need to look at the example of the Prophet. He did housework. He helped around the house. It wasn't expected, but he did it anyways. So we need to look at his being the example for us to follow, inshallah. And then extended family, the dreaded in-laws. What is their relationship going to be in the family, in your marriage? Both from the husband's side and the wife's side. You know, we're coming together to form a family. How are we going to handle our relationship with those outside of our family at home? Some in-laws are better than others, but we also have to look at respect and talking about this. If the wife is running to the mother's house all the time and spending too much time there and neglecting it, talk to her, but not when you're angry, and vice versa. And then religious ideology. You know, do you share the same beliefs? Yes, we're Muslim. Inshallah, we're going to be marrying a Muslim. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're the same, and we have the same beliefs. So you really want to talk about that beforehand. This, hopefully, inshallah, could save a lot of problems later on. I'll split it together. It's leaking. Yeah. What is your foundation? We talked earlier, at the beginning of the presentation, the different areas that we're talking about. So let's go into them a little deeper. Faith, or the foundation of the Muslim family. And among his signs is this, that he created mates from among yourselves, that you may find peace with them. And he has put between you love and mercy. Verily in that are signs for those who reflect. Reflect upon that. Love and mercy. This is something that many years ago, my beloved Imam Abdullah said to me when I was getting married. You fall in love. You believe that you're going to live happily ever after, and it's just going to be this fairy tale romance. A couple of years down the road, or maybe even a couple of weeks or days, reality sets in. Love is going to be tested. There's going to be times in your relationship and in your marriage that you're not going to be in love. You're still going to love your spouse, but you're not going to be in love. That love is going to be tested. During those times, you have to have mercy for one another. First and foremost, this is either your brother or sister in Islam. And you have to have mercy and kindness towards them, even when you don't like them very much at the moment. And inshallah, if you can learn that love, that happy romantic love will return. Inshallah. So a happy marriage needs a solid foundation. It needs a solid foundation to grow and to flourish. All right, well, this slide is going to be no good without the visual. It's a graph. Really what it says is talking about the head of the household. Who's the head of the household? Anyone? Who's the head of the household?
Woman.
Good answer.
He's been trained really good, mashallah. Whoever his wife is, no. Who is the head of the household?
Here.
Who should be the head of the household? No, really. Who should be the head of the household? Allah. Exactly. If we put Allah first, and we have Him be the head of the household, and we are mindful of this will alleviate some of the problems later on, because you are accountable to Allah first and foremost, not your husband, not your wife. Allah has laid down our roles, our rights, and our responsibilities. So we have to be mindful of Him at all times within our families. And then you put Allah at the head of the household. You have the wife, you have the husband, you have your children. The in-laws are over here. But then around that circle, there are a lot of outside entities trying to enter into that circle. There's work, there's TV, there's friends, there's entertainment, there's issues with money. All of these things are trying to break that fragile shell to get into your circle. So we have to be mindful of those things and find a balance. A balance of how much time are we going to spend outside the home on entertainment and things of that. It's okay. It's okay. We have established the framework, we're coming into marriage, we know what our expectations are, we know what roles, and really, this is a huge issue too, of really women being educated. What are your roles? What are your rights? Now I find time and time again with many women, they don't know what their rights are in Islam. Oh, I have to obey my husband. Not in everything. If he's straying away from the path of Islam, if he's being oppressive, is he being a tyrant, do you have to obey him? No. So, and husband's the same thing. If your wife is being, and I'm really hoping that the Imam will touch upon the infamous ayah of the Quran around wife beating. There are a framework on on how to deal when issues arise in your home. And what is one of them? If you're having, and not even with a problem, just with making decisions. You want to buy a new car, where do we go for vacation, which luxury are we going to do this week? What should you do first? Anyone? How should you handle discussions around decisions in your home? Sure. Consultation. The Prophet ﷺ consulted his wives. It matters. Are we above him? No. He is our example, which we should follow. So we should have shura, but especially when there's issues that are arising in the marriage where things might be getting difficult. But during that shura, we have to also listen. It's not just about the one talking. We should listen. But it also should be done at a time when we're calm and we're not in a fit of anger or mad at each other. 5 minutes. So I think you get the idea of shura, though, right? It's a time that we should respect each other's feelings and listen. The listening part is much more important than the talking part. Another aspect of marriage, why do we marry? Besides to have families and have children, why do we marry? To complete half our deed. So the other half. The other half should be what? For me, it was about companionship, about friendship. We honor and trust our friends, right? Many of us, we love to spend time with our friends, brothers too. Women, we get around, we talk, we love to have girl time. Brothers go hang out at the masjid and talk about whatever, or not talk at all. But we honor and we respect our friends. But then we get home and we don't treat our spouses the same way. It's a lot of times like, someone will call up, sister, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing special, I'm just going to stay home with my husband. Why is this? That should be the most special time of your week, is spending that quality time together. So really put an emphasis on putting your relationship above your friends, but also treating your spouse the way that you would treat your friends, with that mutual respect, which is often forgotten when the door closes after work. Another area where I see a problem is if you've been married 5 years, 10 years, growth. We're going to mature. We're going to learn new things. Change is inevitable. And during that time, your relationship is going to change. So what are you doing to preserve that? What are you doing to nurture that relationship as you change? So really going back and building upon what's good in your relationship and being mindful of that. If that's solid, that should remain even through the change. And the change could actually be something that's a beautiful thing in your marriage. My husband and I, we joke all the time, it's like we're an old married couple. But that's okay, because we truly enjoy each other's company. Since I only have a few minutes, I'm going to skip over a couple of slides, but, other areas that, can be an issue in marriage is money management. Oftentimes, times get tight, temperatures rise. People get frustrated, get stressed. So really talking about, money management, saving, and budgeting, inshallah, in a marriage, because that can be an issue. Parenting, different types of parenting styles, but then also having quality time with your children and family. And then stress. In marriage, we're not always going to agree. We're not always going to see eye to eye. We're going to have work, we're going to have kids, we're going to have the house, the chores, the bills, everything's piling up. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Oftentimes, self-care, taking time to unwind and to relax and doing something for yourself will make your relationship better. A lot of times men come home from work and the wife's like, oh, this happened, and They're happy to see their husband home, but they want to share everything with him the moment he walks through the door. My husband goes and plays video games. I let him 45 minutes an hour. He's going to his cave. It's okay. I don't need to be under him 24 hours a day. You know, eventually he comes out of his cave and everything's good and then we can talk. And then we have to remember, respect. Respect is a two-way street. If you want to get respect, you have to give respect both ways. Kind speech. You know, some husbands and wives, they have pet names, little pet names for each other. You know, or I think the Prophet ﷺ had a pet name for Aisha. I believe he used to call her, or maybe it was vice versa. She had a name for him, and she used to call him something when she was angry with him, and she would call him a different name when she was happy with him. That's what it is. And then, you know, consideration. Having consideration for your spouse. You know, if, again, as I said, my husband comes home from work, he's tired, he's stressed, he needs to go online, go to his cave, come back later. Same with me. If I come home from work, if I'm tired, you can't expect dinner on the table right as soon as he walks through the door. It's going to take time. I need to unwind too. This is going to have mutual consideration. And then interaction with each other. Again, spending that quality time. Finding, even if it's waking up early and making salat together. Those 5 minutes together could be your quality time that gets you through the rest of the day, or to the time that you can come back together and reconnect. And then forgiveness. Now, Allah is so merciful. Think about how many mistakes we make, and I know I've made plenty in my lifetime. If Allah wasn't forgiving, it would be very, very, very difficult in the Jannah. But if we want forgiveness for ourselves, then we need to learn to forgive others. But with forgiveness comes responsibility, because you can't forgive and then 2 weeks later be like, well, you know, you did this and this and this. That's not true forgiveness. True forgiveness is letting it go. Letting it go and getting past it and moving forward. That might not happen right away, and that's a given, depending on what the issue is. But eventually you need to find time to let it go. And if something is still bothering you over and over and over again, then you need to look at yourself. Because it might be something within you that is triggering those feelings. I know for myself, being a survivor of domestic violence, I've had to really work on myself of having trust issues or having feelings that they're going to be abandoned. And I can't take those out on my husband. I have to be mindful and really look. Many of us have had different experiences in life. It may not be domestic violence. You may have been let down as a child, or there was something that really was painful for you when you were going to school. Maybe you weren't accepted, or you were different, or, you know, we all have insecurities. So when something is truly bothering you, first look at yourself before taking it out or accusing your spouse of being the one making you feel that way. Because chances are, if you work on yourself, that relationship will get better. But then also sometimes, we may hate a thing which is good for us and love something which is bad for us. So what I wanted to go over, and I don't think we're going to have time, and again, as I said before, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I did want to get into some issues which can break a marriage. This was a portion of the presentation that was called as a thin line between love and hate. Our relationships are delicate, very delicate, and it doesn't take much for it to fall apart. So we do have to nurture it. Oftentimes, there's abuse in the marriage. That doesn't necessarily mean physical abuse. Abuse comes in all forms. It could be verbal, emotional, financial, many different types of abuse. So we have to be careful not to abuse our responsibilities that Allah has set for us, and not to overstep them. Family and outside interferences, you know, TV, music, entertainment, and constant going out and hanging out, it's not going to help your marriage. It's not going to help your relationship. It's not going to help your children grow we need to be the models for our children. If we want our children to do something in this life, then we need to be the first example. And as with domestic violence, oftentimes it is a learned behavior. It's usually someone who grew up with violence in their home, someone who may have seen their father physically abusing their mother. Oftentimes a son who witnessed abuse in his home will grow up to be an abuser. A daughter who has witnessed abuse will often grow up to accept abuse in her own life. So we have to be mindful of the examples that we're setting for our children. If we're hanging out and going out all the time, don't expect your child when he reaches or she reaches adolescence to stay home. They're going to go out and hang out with their friends too. So I've been told that my time is up. Again, I think starting a marriage off on the right foot, setting that foundation early on, can really help in nurturing a relationship and growing together if you have a better understanding of your differences, because we're all going to have different likes, different dislikes, but finding a way to come together. And really, again, and I cannot stress this enough, communication, 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 and then let it go. Well, inshallah, not able to go too much more into the presentation. Inshallah, I hope to come back one time and do a complete presentation around domestic violence and domestic abuse, inshallah. And again, please, very, very powerful exhibit here. Please take a look, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.